The story further south in Englewood tonight is one of pride, of residents fighting back against the pervasive crime that has become their neighborhood's trademark. A group called Reach Out and Touch started its Pride in Englewood Day by joining hands in a circle of prayer. As Channel 2's Dorothy Tucker reports, the residents are praying for the strength to deal with the street gang and drug problems that face them every day.
Gangs and drugs must go! Gangs and drugs must go!
If we don't take back the community, the drug dealers and gangbangers will take over this community.
Gang violence is not solely a city problem, it also plagues the suburbs. Tonight, News Channel 5's Phil Walters introduces us to a South Side minister who's trying to keep kids out of gangs.
Just 5 blocks from where police say a 12-year-old gunned down 2 teenagers is a youth center created to keep kids out of trouble.
Yeah, I had a kid tell me, he said, Reverend, it's easier for me to get a gun than it is a library card.
So another murder by another child shocks the director, but does not surprise him.
Not uncommon for an 8-year-old kid, 9-year-old kid to be living in a group environment with a lot of gangbangers. The gangbangers and the drug dealers become their family.
For a decade now, Reverend Jeffrey Haynes has tried to help with community centers, a youth residence, halfway house, an employment project through Brown's Chicken.
All right, thank you.
And he has successes.
I stopped going to school in April of '97.
And what were you doing if you weren't going to school?
Smoking marijuana.
And you're off it now?
Yeah.
And you're back in school?
Back in school.
I probably wouldn't be where I'm at now, Probably be on the streets, hanging out.
Yet Tammy Arnold has brothers who are not here.
One thing is certain. The gang summit being held here in Chicago brings together the largest ever gathering of current and former gang members with community leaders. The aim of the conference is peace, but even the meeting is drawing fire.
What the peace truce does is it opens up the door for the drug trade. What it allows these thugs to poison our community.
Jeff Haynes is a former gang member turned preacher who now runs a center for kids in the Englewood neighborhood. He says he is totally against the gang summit and has just one message for gang leaders.
We should tell them that the dope and the gang violence must stop now. Period. No compromise. Get out of our community.
Elsewhere in the country today, an election in Chicago that all too vividly demonstrates the growing political power of that city's largest and most dangerous gang. 5 convicted felons were running for seats on the city council in yesterday's Democratic primary. As ABC's Aaron Hayes reports, 2 of them have won enough votes to make it into the next round of voting.
Gator Bradley, former enforcer for Chicago's most powerful street gang, the Gangster Disciples, is now on his way to a runoff election for Chicago alderman. But the gang association is a problem for others in the community who are convinced these runoffs are an important first step in the gang's grab for political power.
Now you're going to possibly have gang bangers and drug dealers that are sitting in authority positions.
Bradley and Baskin say that's not so.
Gang violence has plagued the Southside Englewood neighborhood recently. It has claimed the lives of several children caught in the crossfire of drive-by shootings. Now children trying to survive the deadly streets are making a plea to gang members. Channel 5's Phil Hayes joins us with that story.
Evidence of the gangs in this Southside neighborhood is obvious, from the graffiti on the walls to the death on the streets.
Police, stop the killing, just stop. It doesn't make any sense for this to go on. It's just really sad that I had to watch my back every time. I just have to keep turning around because I'm just so scared. I mean, I can't even go to school, without somebody wondering if somebody gonna shoot me.
I thank you for the ones that's gathered here today, Lord. And I'm praying you bless those that's on their way, Lord.
Kids have gathered at the West Englewood Youth and Teen Center to make a plea directly to gang members, teen to teen.
We on the same level. We come from the same neighborhood. I'm their same age. I can see with them eye to eye on a, same basis terms.
The former gang member that organized this plea said this can change and save lives.
Society has become conditioned to violence. Violence is tolerable. It's acceptable. It has become a way of life. And that's the point here today, that these children don't want society to forget them.
And Rick, throughout the crisis in the public schools, students have always expressed their feelings on the impasse.
They want their school doors to remain open. They want to be educated. These kids are crying out. Matter of fact, they are scared if the school doors close. What will they do during the day?
Good evening and welcome to Chicago Tonight. I'm Phil Ponce. Participants in a weekend event that just ended in Chicago said they were here as part of a gang peace summit. This gathering was part of something called the National Urban Peace and Justice Movement. But critics have other names for the weekend gathering of gang members from Chicago and across the country. They call it a sham, a joke, a charade. This controversial and high-visibility gathering of gang members, ex-gang members, community activists, and politicians drew some of the country's most prominent African Americans. They spoke about unity and peace among the gangs here in Chicago and throughout the country. But critics say the gathering was not a sincere effort at peacemaking. They call the event a cynical public relations move intended to bestow credibility on drug merchants whose tool is violence. Were the participants sincere? Are they, as Jesse Jackson said, the new frontier of the civil rights movement? Or were local leaders like the Cook County State's Attorney right to refuse to meet with them? We'll debate those questions with our panel, but first, this background report from Chicago Tonight correspondent Laura Washington.
The call was answered by prominent black leaders with much bigger followings. The Reverend Jesse Jackson, Benjamin Chavis, Executive Director of the NAACP, and the Nation of Islam's leader, the Minister Louis Farrakhan.
And now joining us to talk about what the Gang Summit did or did not accomplish are the Reverend Heisel Taylor, Senior Pastor of the Second Baptist Church of Evanston and former President of Operation Push, Neville Reed, an attorney with the law firm of Mayer, Brown and Platt, and one of about 100 men who took part in an African-American male anti-gang summit organized by Congressman Mel Reynolds, Salim Moakil, Senior Editor of In These Times, and Jeffrey Haynes, Executive Director of the West Englewood Youth and Teen Center and of an organization called Reach Out and Touch, a crisis intervention group. Gentlemen, thank you for being with us this evening. Jeffrey Haynes, and let me get your take on what you think the Gang Peace Summit actually accomplished.
Phil, I think it was a good beginning. I don't think much was accomplished because it sends a terrible message to the community. It sends a message that you have civil, political, and religious leaders parading around with known gang members. I believe that these youngsters should have denounced the drug trade. They should have denounced the violence and all gang activity. That's the only way that I could see that gang summit being any part of an accomplishment. I think, again, as I said, that it sent a terrible message to the kids that are trying to do good, the ones that are in school, the ones that are seeking employment. They're saying that if civil, political, and religious leaders, if they're backing this type of activity, what type of message that sends, what type of message does that send to our children that are really striving to do good in society?
Would you say it sends a message that they're trying to back that kind of activity in society?
Sure. It should have been a clear distinction. The summit should have took 5 minutes. Our civic, political, and religious leaders should have said, we're fed up, we're tired, we want that dope, the violence, and the murder out of our community. We should have sent a clear message. It should have been an opportunity, Phil, that evening in those series of days for youngsters who wanted out. We should have been able to provide a way out. It should have been some resources. We should have said, you youngsters that want to stop selling the dope, you youngsters that want to stop the violence, we have a way out. Stand up, come forth. Instead of on TV, you see these youngsters throwing gang signs, the same gang signs that have caused hundreds of youngsters their lives. I'm not going to condone that type of activity. If these youngsters want to stop all forms of violence, all gang activity, and all drug trade, then I'll be part of that.